I'm so grateful to be here with you today. I am coming from or sharing today from Osage Nation. We are on a gig here in Tulsa, a film gig. So this is day 4 of filming, and one more day. We're having lots of fun. So I'm glad to have this space to get to chat today. It's a really pretty day, and I'm grateful to spend this part of it with you.
Well, again, thank you for, I'm just amazed. When I first went to your website, one of the things that I just reveled in was the way you own your space. You and your sisters own your space, and how proud you are to be who you are. And so one of the things that Sam and I did before, sharing her with all of you, is we had a phone call. And I had promised to myself that I was going to behave and I wasn't going to ask anything that was going to make anybody uncomfortable. And Lauren Palmer just dived right in, and she actually ended up making me feel comfortable. And again, I am just so grateful for this opportunity. So I'm going to start with our first questions. And Lauren, keep in mind when I ask you this question, it's past or present. They don't have to be with us, at this time. Who are your 2 biggest mentors, or if you could choose any mentor, who would it be?
I love this question. Over the years, I've been surrounded by so many people that have made such an impact on my life and on my businesses with my sisters. But honestly, I think if I had to choose anyone, well, and I kind of took liberties with the question a little bit. There were three people
Okay.
that I would want close. So the first is my great grandmother, Callie Bell. She's a woman that I have never met. She passed before I was born, but I think there are threads of her courage and bravery that still just reverberate in our family today. So she's one. Another on the other side of my family is my great grandmother, Melissa. She, like Callie Bell, she was just such a powerful woman, and the photos I have of her are really special to me. And to know little bits and pieces of her personality from my living elders is just really special. And then I think the third woman is Floria. So she's one that she's my great grandmother, and she lived in Michigan, and we would always go and visit her and get to go blueberry picking when she was there. And anyway, she had a lot of very wise words to share. I think that those 3 women, they weren't business owners, or, their path in life was a bit different than what I have chosen. But I think that the lessons that they would share and would have for me, I think would translate to, the path that I've chosen. So anyway, they inspire me now, but to have the opportunity to be able to be near them, now in this era of my life would be really special.
Well, I have no doubt that you'd be very proud of you and your sisters, as
Well,
I
thank
don't know
you.
you and I'm proud of you.
Thank
Um,
you.
I was telling the other Lauren and Sam that your organization was the first one where I had to research and I had to study. I just wanted to
Mm,
be able to have an intelligent conversation with you. And
mm,
I knew nothing about the floral industry.
mhm.
And I certainly did not know it. You and your sisters have made it unique, your own unique space. I don't want to speak for you, but my question is, how much did, the cross-sectional, I hope I'm saying this right, the cross-sectionality of your identity, how much did that play in the way you present yourself professionally?
Man, so at first just wanted to fit in. We wanted to make money. We wanted
Mhm.
to be able to do something that we loved, but also be successful at it. So I think there was a lot of like, I guess compartmentalizing like who we are and the things that really are important to us. Like we would have to compartmentalize that away from business and floral design. And then we just made a decision. And I remember the day we decided that the fact that we were sort of sterilizing ourselves and our personalities and every bit of who we are and what makes us who we were sterilizing that out of our business to be more palatable to people.
Mm.
And actually, it was a broken system. It didn't work, and um, it wasn't honest. And so, anyway, we pivoted, and it was kind of a hard pivot. And by hard, I mean it was kind of abrupt. But it gave room for a lot of storytelling and a lot of honestly like spaces to lead in ways that our counterparts just can't, simply because they don't have the experience that we do. So yeah, I mean those are just my like brief thoughts on that question.
You don't have to be brave. I mean, you can be, but you don't have to be. All right.
Thank
So
you.
one of the things that I've really been learning, Sam has been doing this since what, you were 9? Okay, so both her parents were in radio, so she
Mm,
teaches me a lot. And one of the things that she's taught me is to be comfortable with one, always be curious, but to be honest about why I'm asking the question that I'm asking. One of the things that really stuck out for me was when you just proudly own the fact that you are Afro Indigenous.
mhm,
Um, I've been on this earth for a while.
mhm.
My college roommate's here, so I'm not going to say how old I am, but you were the first woman, you and your sister were the first woman that had just framed it so beautifully. And one of the things I've always believed that is if, you can't become what you can't see or don't see. Where did you see this to give you the power and the strength to be able to do this? To just step into your space and own it.
Yeah. Honestly, in as we were trying to be very clear and very just internally very decided, about the ground upon which we stood, it was very important for us to honor the elders and the ancestors that like came before us. So in being clear, we have to we have to speak our connections to
Mm,
West Africa and to South Africa and to yeah, to Native America, specifically Mississippi is our homeland, and to Mexico. We have to acknowledge those, not just those spaces, but the mothers and fathers that had to be before we could be, to like sterilize that out of our origin stories, and then like to charge forward as if they didn't exist just did not
mm,
feel right to us. So honestly, in indigenous spaces, there, I mean, I'm finding more friends and more people that I can relate to, but there are few of us, it feels, in the indigenous community. And I think that that kind of speaks to anti-blackness in the indigenous community. And really that's nothing, I mean, it's similar to anti-blackness in literally like any space, just according to what we have found. But yeah, I think that as long as we are being truthful and honest about what we know, and who we are, it only like feeds my soul in a way that like there's such peace in it and so much freedom in being truthful. So yeah, the calling myself Afro-Indigenous, claiming it and owning it it's special, it's super sacred, but it's also just, it is what it is, you know? A lot of people like to ask about blood quantum and, you know, wanting us to like prove who we are. And I don't know of any other proof than, you know, like having my elders around me who lived on, you know, like reservations and
Mhm.
experienced anti-Native discrimination in the 60s and 70s and experienced boarding schools. So yeah, it's a special place, and I'm grateful for the people that we get to hold that space with. A lot of Afro-Indigenous friends that have become so close over the past couple of years.
I've never done this before. I mean, we've only been doing this for, it feels like a year, but I think 6 months, guys. I will be inviting you back because I do want to talk about just race and identity from both the Native and the African American perspective. I
Yeah.
when I'm sure this is no surprise to anyone in the group, but occasionally I get asked, so what are you? And for years I would be super offended, but it was because I know this is going to sound bizarre to anyone hearing this, but I didn't understand what people were seeing because growing up, we never talked about it in my household. And I shared this with you, Lauren. I think a lot of that was because my family was trying to protect me. But when you don't know what you're made of or the strength of what you survived, it does not protect you. So
Yeah.
again, we will visit that and we will talk about that. So with that being said, professionally speaking, I mean, you've worked on movie sets, you have worked in museums, I mean, you and your sisters have taken floral design to a skyrocket level. You've got to respect that. But what made you think that was possible? I mean, I looked at
I
what
don't
you,
know.
I looked at
I
what you
really
did
don't
with
know.
the Greenwood exhibit, and first of all, I didn't know roses could do that. I mean, I looked at it and I'm still trying to figure out like, how did you do that? But it is absolutely beautiful.
Thank
But
you.
yes, what made you think that you could do this?
I think early in our like floristry career, we didn't even realize it was the beginning of our career. um, we were just doing weddings for friends that we met at university. So Leah and I, uh, the middle sister, she and I went to university together, and we always dreamed of doing something entrepreneurial together. And when I always loved flowers and loved playing with them. And so anyway, there were friends that asked us to do their weddings. And then when we started getting phone calls from folks that we didn't know, it felt a little, it felt natural to just explore.
Mhm.
And then, we looked up and we were, doing things that I don't think that ever like anticipated that happening. But yeah, I think that we just took it one step at a time. And we also have this practice of every year, at the beginning of the year, we will take inventory of like what happened in the past, or yeah, in the past 12 months. And then we will like cast vision for the coming 12 months. And that's so grounding. It's beautiful to look back like, man, all these things that were goals, we were able to achieve them, or this thing is no longer a goal. Our minds shifted, or we're artists, and so we're moving and growing and changing. And anyway, yeah, I think looking back, I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that we've had, and all of the yeses. There are things that we could have said no to, but I'm glad for all the things, and I'm just looking forward. Like you mentioned today, Um, so yeah, we're on set of a project, and it's crazy. The like I sketched this dream, like maybe this could work. I don't know.
Mm.
And now I'm looking. I We built this set, and it's what I sketched, and it's crazy to realize things like that, like in real life, you know. So yeah, I think it takes just agreeing to just the process of um, every step of of the way.
So what has been it sounds I have a question here that I'm supposed to ask you what's a typical day like, but I don't think you have typical days. Do you have typical
No,
days? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, so next, all right.
no.
So just next question then. Okay. So what was one of the most meaningful experiences that you looked back on and you're like, I can't believe you just did that. That you can share, that you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. I think so. My sisters and I had this thought and this idea that flowers should not there should be no barrier of entry with flowers. They are medicine given to us by our first mother, and you shouldn't have to be rich to enjoy flowers. You shouldn't have to but well we love thinking of flowers as like public art pieces. So and then we're also very passionate about pushing back on revisionist history. So last year, around the centennial events for Greenwood, the Greenwood Massacre,
Mhm.
we wanted to use flowers as a tool to point to the truthful history of what happened at Greenwood. And then we also wanted to empower florists who want to do the same thing. So a lot of times we get in this cyclical, I don't know, it feels so monotonous where we're, receiving flowers and processing them, doing a wedding. There's so much waste in this industry. And we, decided, like, I think there's a way where we can do something that is like toward community care with flowers. So anyway, we called a couple friends who are floral designers and asked, like, will you come, to design with us in Tulsa? And long story short, we were able to rally farms and wholesalers and florists, both fresh and paper florists. There were people that were coming from Canada and Washington and Georgia and Texas and all over the place. We were able to come together and create this public installation at Standpipe Hill, and we really wanted to honor the lives that were lost there. And we think that flowers serve as like this bright beacon that attract a lot of people. And our goal was, okay, so if we attract all these people, it'll stir up conversations about what really happened. And it really did. It was crazy. I think last spring we were talking more about the history of Greenwood and oppressive systems in Oklahoma, the systemic racism that was all throughout. We were talking more about that than we were flowers all spring, and we were grateful to do it. But I think more than that, it was great to be able to work alongside of other florists in that work, to empower them and to arm them with this idea that you can push back on things that hurt other people. You don't have to just stand by and allow oppressive systems just be what they are. We can talk about these things, and as artists, we can make it beautiful. So yeah, I think this project was called Send Flowers to. Send Flowers to Greenwood was last year. This year we're focusing on the missing and murdered Indigenous women crisis. And when I say women, I should say I do mean women, girls, trans, femme, non-binary, and two-spirit relatives. We say MMIW because the movement that started in Canada started with that acronym, and it's pretty widely used in Indian country. So anyway, yeah, this is our second year to do Send Flowers to, and we're working alongside of a lot of Indigenous thought leaders and knowledge keepers. And yeah, in May, we'll install at the First Americans Museum in the city to honor the matriarchs and sisters and friends and cousins and best friends who are either missing and or murdered at the hands of violent predators. Yeah.
Again, there's just so many things to unpack on what you just said. One of the things that always strikes me really, really hard is that we are asked to quantify, how native we are. But nobody has ever asked me to quantify how Black I am or how white I am. No one has ever asked me that. And it hurts me to the core that I grew up so much of my life not knowing, what I was. So I didn't know who I am. I am from the southeastern part of the state. I was born in Sulphur, Oklahoma. Yeah, can't get more native than that. I was raised in a town called Tatum's, Oklahoma, which is an all historical Black town. So you can't get more Black than that. But yet, in either community, I was always asked, what was I? And it wasn't until I got to northeastern Oklahoma that I had an elder call me out. And, anyone that knows me knows that I've often asked, why am I in northeastern Oklahoma? Dear God, let's talk about this. But I think it was because on this side of the state, for me at least, there is a reckoning and a healing and an acknowledgement that I would not have received before. One of the things I've learned on this side of the state, and this is why I said you and I could talk about this, and we will, is that, a lot of people associate being a freedman with being African American, where I have at least two freedmen friends of mine that are blonde haired, blue eyed. So, but again, nobody ever talks about that. So I say that to say this, you and your sisters are doing a lot of healing, not just in Oklahoma, but in this world, and that we need more women like you. We really do. I think I cry every other video, and this one I can't blame on my allergies. I really am just moved. So again, thank you. The next question that I want to ask you is, you are doing work that, for lack of a better word, I will say your ancestors left for you to do, but you're also doing work as an artist. How do you find balance in your life, downtime where you can just nurture you? As women, we try to do it all and we can't. So how do you, fill up yourselves so that you can continue to do the work that you do?
Yeah. That is a skill that I had to learn. There were a lot of, so I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I did not study floral design anywhere. I studied voice, and yeah, I'm a performer. I think this is why I like it translates really well to floral. Yeah, like some of the little things I'm thinking of, like some of my teachers and professors over the years who honed this like keen eye or keen ear to I don't know, like things that are most like appealing. and I think what felt natural to me in that space was to lean heavily on my crafts, or the things that I thought like, oh, this is really fun. I would lean heavily on it for like as a job. And I've learned that there are some things I need to keep for myself. And floral is not one of those. I love sharing, especially considering the materials that we use. We're very, very particular about the materials we use. And then also like the farms that we get our product from and stuff like that. Um, it comes from, like I was saying earlier, it comes from our first mother, and so it's meant to be shared. And um, yeah, and we just happen to have a skill and learning. We've learned how to arrange things in a way that hopefully looks like, it originally did. Yeah, like as arranged by our first mother. Um, but there are things I had to learn ritual. Like the girls and I have like a tea time every morning, and it sounds silly, but the ritual of like, the hot water and the honey, and I put oat milk, and then we use like rooibos tea or our Earl Grey tea every morning, and the slow stir of the tea, and sitting there and slowly sipping it. It's a really good. Um, it slows us down in a way that this fast-paced world does not look too kindly on, and we don't like to sacrifice those moments in our day. Another thing that I do that is so it's so special to me as an Indigenous woman, and as I continue to reconnect. Um, I love this like methodical, or the methodical movements of bead embroidery. I'll look up and like I would have sat there for 6 hours just beading, and it's so like beautiful. And then I get to wear what I've made, or I get to gift it to someone else. I'm working on a medallion right now, and it's so gratifying to like look down and like see what I drew or what I sketched like turned into this thing that I'll wear later. Um, I know that for my sisters, Leah loves to walk. She's just always walking. So she goes outside, and 2 hours later she'll be back. But yeah, she takes in that like the sun, the air. She was born in August, so she's like our sunny baby. And yeah, walking is something that is like just for her. Callie is another that Callie is she's like a forager, and she's very like interested in plant medicine. She's taught me so much. And so her time foraging and collecting things that'll make us well is something that, she's not doing it for any other reason, but that she loves it. So I think those things, just finding a ritual, and something that doesn't take a lot of brain power. I think that's really important. Something that is, I don't know, like if you fall asleep doing it, like sometimes I will, I'll walk in on Callie's little, her little medicine nook in her room, and she would have like fallen asleep on the little couch, like with her little potions that she's made. And I don't know, yeah, there's no pressure behind it. And I, yeah, I love that we have found those rituals, because there was an era of our working together where it was not that healthy. We were working really hard to meet the demand of honestly like a very patriarchal and like colonial rhythm. And so we had set like placed around us, people that we thought were like, okay, he's rich and we need to learn how to, we were thinking, okay, we're gonna build generational wealth, and that we were excited about that at the beginning of our business. And at this point, and I mean, I don't want to be held to this because I know that I'll grow and I change and all this stuff, but right now in this moment, um, my mind has changed about what generational wealth is. Um, I know that we need money to live, to survive here, but I'm, I don't, generational wealth to me is like the knowledge that is passed down from like ancestor or elder to child. And I mean, we could go this, like I could talk on this forever, but there are gems that my elders and my parents have passed down to me and my siblings, that it's just worth way more than money. And um, yeah, I think that as we started to learn that that we don't have to like hustle, we don't have to like hurry all the time. I mean, there are times and places for that. I want my clients to know, like I'm here on set today, and I want my clients to feel like they're taken care of. But at the end of, you know, this experience, I also want to be taken care of, you know? So, and for me that means, you know, that I have like, you know, that I'm intact. So yeah, I'm learning a lot, as I, you know, get older and take on more projects. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like now I'm just like rambling on all these things that are like all these epiphanies that have come to mind in the past couple of years. But yeah.
You're not rambling. I I do I would like to talk to you in 5 years and see how you feel about generational wealth. Like, okay, I'll just be honest, all right. So
Yeah.
but because when I was younger, back in the day, all right, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure that I wanted to go to grad school because honestly, I was just trying to get out of college. You know, I was a single mom, and there was a gentleman. I don't know if he's with us anymore, probably not, but his name is Bob Fields. He was native and he was teaching at both OU and OSU. And
Mhm.
I remember Dr. Fields because he sort of traveled with his entourage of graduate students. And he stopped me one day and he was like, so what are you going to do? I was a philosophy major, okay? So he was like, what are you going to do with, you know, a philosophy degree? And I was like, I really don't know. I'm just trying to get this degree. And he said to me, he said, I want you to think about grad school because when you get old
Mhm.
or his age, you're not going to want to work that hard. And I can tell you that was some of the best advice that I was given because when COVID happened, a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of things stopped. I was able to continue my work from home. And I can tell you
Yeah.
that's the only time, and my mom would kill me if she heard me say this, but that was the only time I was grateful that I went to college. I'm just going to be truthful
Mhm.
because everything that I had done prior to that point, I could have done without a degree. Okay.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, Leah, let's talk. Lauren, sorry. Leah must be
It's
traveling.
okay.
Okay.
It's
You
okay.
know, let's talk in 5 years. And, you know, I'm just really curious to see how a Native African American woman feels about generational wealth. I I just find that fascinating because there's so much that is placed on us as women that aren't our decision, that weren't our choice. You know,
Yeah.
I always hate it when someone says to me, as well-meaning as they are, you know, you're such a strong woman. Well, what choice did I have? You know,
Right.
it's not really a
Yeah.
compliment if I had no option.
Yeah.
So, so with that being said, you because I'm looking at my questions, you've answered so many of them. Can you please, within all of this, share like what your description of wild mother is? Because one of the reasons I didn't is because your organization is so unique. I don't know how to describe.
Yeah. The Wild Mother is a creative studio. We are located on Kickapoo, Osage, Wichita, and Comanche land, which in brackets, I should say, should be returned back to its original keepers, for the goodness of us all. And yeah, we do a lot of stuff. So the core of her work is floral design. So we serve clients who are looking for a wedding florist. We will do work for um, like commercial parties. We do a set design, and then there are the little things that we love so much. Like there are only certain holidays that we will open our studio up and sell flowers. So one of those is Mother's Day. It's really sweet to see all these people just like loving on their matriarchs. Yeah, it gives us a lot of life, and it's just fun to do it. So anyway, yeah. And then another arm, aside from the floral arm of our company, we do a lot of education. So we have an online course called Lay of the Land, where we teach how to build affirming, equitable, and just brands. It's 6 movements, and we start at the very beginning, teaching people how to craft, or how to even like orient themselves within their origin story, that has uh, some significance for the rest of the work, because we sort of build on that. So throughout the next 6 movements, we talk through um, yeah, how to be a brand, how to be a business owner that um, is affirming and is yeah, has like equitable practices. And I'll give you an example. Um, we have like set prices for things like boutonnieres for our wedding clients, and table arrangements and things like that. And there was a woman who came to us, and she was going to have a traditional Indian wedding. And she told us that like all of the men that would be honored on that day needed a boutonniere. Well, every boutonniere, I think we were selling them for like $15 at that point. And it didn't make a lot of sense that the boutonniere line item costs more than like this large scale installation that they would get married under. It just didn't make any sense. So we pivoted to make something that made sense for her, and not just her, but like made sense culturally. So anyway, we have some lessons that we like to teach. The course has several video components. So my sisters and I talk through all of the lessons, and then there's a workbook, we call it a field guide, um, and it's about 90 pages, so people can work through at their own pace. Yeah, and then we have the art activism brand, or arm of our brand. And Send Flowers too is the bulk of that work. So that large scale installation that I mentioned, that we will install at First Americans Museum in May, is like a product of, I hesitate saying product because it's all volunteer based, and every bit of the flowers and all the labor, it's all donated, which is just so cool, to see like all of those donations coming in from farmers who work so hard, and florists who carve out time in the middle of their spring season to come work alongside of other florists who do work in the community. It's just really special. So yeah, those are the 3 arms of the Wild Mother. And yeah, we have our hands full, but it's fun.
The work that you're doing, though, it sounds like it's feeding souls, and that's why people are stopping what they're doing to assist you and your sisters. It's truly been an honor to talk with you.
Thank you.
I am going to turn it over to Sam, and I'm going to open it up to, well, Sam will open it up to the audience. So,
Cool.
thank you.
So quick reminder, if anybody has any questions or anything they want to ask, go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll keep an eye on that. But as far as I'm excited to talk to you, because as someone who also prides himself on being a storyteller, I'm really interested in your creative process. And so starting with, whether it's commercial, whether it's wedding or something like that, or even one of your projects with Lay of the Land or Set Letters to, how do you, because you're a team, how do you work together to create that vision? Do you all brainstorm? Do you have different techniques? Does somebody take lead? That's what I'm curious about.
So sort of all of the above. So in our team, I'm our principal designer. So for all of the floral work that you see, a lot of the concepts are mine. So I sketch it out and then I present it to the team, to my sisters, and then they will help edit. So it goes through a process of edits. And a lot of times we're inspired by, like, there's a painter called Pop Chili, and then there's Degas, or if we go and we like to, be outside. So if we go to, Elk Mountain or the Rainy Mountains or whatever, being inspired always is so important for my job, and my role in the team. So that's part of the process. We also heavily involve our client as much as they're willing. We want to hear from them, not just what they want, but like how they want to feel when they are finally able to see the finished product. If it's a wedding client, we ask, how do you want your clients to feel in the space? What's the tone, or what's the timbre that we're going for here? So lots of conversation up front, and a lot of sketches, and sending images back and forth about what we're looking for. In terms of storytelling, so Leah's official title for our company is lead storyteller. Leah, I could talk forever about how, I know she's my sister, but how impressed I am always by Leah. Leah, she is a writer, and she went to OBU and finished with a degree in English, and then went on to OSU to study literature, and specifically African American and Native literature. And anyway, the way that her brain works, like, she's such a wordsmith. So a lot of the language that you read, Leah has refined it with this magic brush that she just puts on everything. So Leah is our lead storyteller, and she handles the language, the body of what we do. And it's hard to explain, but it's one of the most vital parts of our team. So yeah, the process from start to finish, it looks different from, one client to the next. But then again, there are, when I'm thinking logistically, we use a CRM tool that's very has saved our lives. It's called Devsado. I highly recommend it. So
Explain what CRM tools?
Yeah, it's a client relationship management tool.
Cool.
So when, you know, if you reach out to us about like this client that we're, you know, here doing this work this week, they reached out, and there I can choose whether or not I answer organically, or if my CRM jumps in and puts them through. There's a process before, you know, we get to a consultation. So anyway, that has saved us. It's almost like we have hired another 2 people on our team. So that's been really great to work with.
It helps you get the central questions out of the way, so when you talk, you're on the same
Absolutely.
level, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I show up to our consultations having a really good idea of who I'm talking to. We ask things like, you know, of our wedding clients, we ask like, what are your personalities? And tell us about your love story. And there are a lot of things that we can like pick up and we can discern as we are just reading about them. And it's actually brilliant because these, like the responses that we get, a lot of them are so, they're like long form, and it's cool like how intentional people are about telling us who they are. So I think that means that you know matters to people. Yeah, so that's a bit of you know the our processes.
The broad
And
overview.
yeah, it's a broad overview of how things tick.
Well, and the point you made about Leah with the being a wordsmith, I mean, we all know words have strong meaning, right? They're very important.
Absolutely.
Word choice is very important. And you
Mm-hmm.
can feel when something doesn't sound right, doesn't look right, but you can also tell when something does.
Yeah,
But also visual imagery is the exact same way. So
yeah.
the flowers you all choose, the colors, the arrangement, how much does, you know, the color theory or the flower choice play into the overall vision?
It's almost so up front where words are very important. The material and the color choices are equally as important as we install. So symbolism makes our boat float, and there's symbols in everything. So the colors that we choose and the materials that we choose are just super important. And if like we'll pick things. I'm thinking of an example. There was a bride. Oh yeah, there was a bride who she and her fiance. It's kind of funny. They earlier on in their relationship, they were shy about saying "I love you," and so they would say olive juice because it sounded the same, I guess. So anyway, funny enough, like olives became like the symbol of their love, and then they got engaged in Italy, and like in a olive on an olive farm or something like that. So for their wedding, we were intentional about bringing olive trees and olive branches. So they felt surrounded by this like tangible symbol of their love. Little things like that are just really, really important. It makes me like I have to do those things so I'm not bored, you know?
Yep.
So I don't want to
Find
like move on
the
to the
little
next
nuggets,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we always want to weave those things in, and even if the client doesn't realize it, we might even tell them later, like, yeah, so this is important because you know fill in the blank. For us, smell is really important. So if we had a client who's I think it was her grandfather, I don't know, one of her family members was like had a like an orange orchard or something like that, and it was important for us to like have citrusy smells in the space. And yeah, so that's that. All of those things, those details are just yeah, like have to be intentional, you know?
Absolutely. Having intention behind every single step. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so, we talked about getting those details when you're talking with the client or
Mhm,
when you're researching history, I'm sure with your larger projects like with
mhm,
Greenwood or
mhm,
with the one coming up. Um,
mhm,
how big a role does your environment play? Like where the
mm.
location is going to be, or maybe if you're using local flowers, how
Yeah.
big of a impact does that have on your vision?
It's it's pretty huge. For this upcoming installation, we wanted so we're honoring Indigenous women. I'm an Indigenous woman, and the subject matter is really sensitive. And I know this, like, our family has been affected by this crisis. We've lost a family member to murder, and so we understand um, how sensitive it is. We wanted to be sure that it felt intertribal, that it didn't feel. So I'm Chata, and I didn't want it to feel like we were, like highlighting one, group or, whatever, and not like honoring the other. So the fact that we were welcomed by the first Americans Museum was really important for us, just as like a grounds level, as a foundation. That was really important. um, and yeah, space is important also, like where we get our flowers from. For Sunflowers to MMIW, it's important that we have a lot of Oklahoma farmers that pour into this. And even if it's, that we are using some of the funds that we have raised so far to purchase from farmers, if, it's hard growing anything. It takes a keen eye and a lot of diligence. So yeah, we are the intentionality behind space is really important too. It reminds me of there's a book called Way to Rainy Mountain. It's by N. Scott Momaday, and the themes in that book are it's special because it highlights place as character, and just how like significant places are as like characters in our lives, like how places raise us too. So um yeah, we try to be as like thoughtful as possible, when we're preparing any sort of project or any work.
Absolutely. And I'm just curious, especially because you have your studio that you can work in
Mhm.
and workshop and everything.
Yeah.
But obviously, a lot of things are in location.
Mhm.
How much do you do in shop? And then how much do you wait until you're on location to put together?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it kind of depends on the project. So this project that we're doing this week, we literally packed up all of our mechanics and then, drove it to Tulsa and popped up a studio basically. If it's closer, or if it's like a 1 day type of event or, set, which sets are not usually 1 day, but if it's a shorter window, we'll prepare as much as we can that's in water or in a water source, on in our studio. And then for the larger scale installations where we're affixing flowers to a structure, like a pre-existing structure, we end up taking like buckets and buckets of flowers and yeah, and doing all the work on site. So it kind of depends, but um, the the larger like set design work is usually where we just pack up our studio and everything but our dog, and then we yeah, and then we work on site.
Does the dog hang out at the studio sometimes?
Yeah,
So you
sometimes.
give puppy
Yeah.
cuddles when you want, take a break. You're like, okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna go hang out over here.
Yeah,
So
sometimes he's really sweet. His name is Dove. like the bird. And he's like 7 or 8. He's a rescue. He's a lab Pyrenees, so he's really soft and fluffy, and yeah, he's a sweet pup.
That's one of my favorite versions of self-care, is just have some puppy time. Just go and just play with the puppy, and they'll always, I say puppy,
Yeah.
mine's 6'2", but she acts like
Yeah.
a puppy. So, it's
Yeah.
always great to have that source there.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're doing work that can sometimes be creatively draining, how do you make sure to energize that back? I mean, I know you talked a little bit about having your own separate times, but do you have
Yeah.
anything to specifically re-energize your creativity?
Yeah, we do. Like as a team, we will do like little like field trips or outings where we will take in other people's art. That usually energizes us. It's important to like not live or create in a silo for us. So yeah, we will do a lot of like exploring outside of our own work. And I mean, sometimes that looks like going to a concert. Leah just mentioned the other day that we missed a Jose Gonzalez concert, which is a huge bummer. I love Jose Gonzalez, but anyway, yeah, things like that, or like we love going, to the ballet, or that is so energizing, super inspirational, and there are even ways that we can translate what we see or what we felt in those spaces into our creative work. Yeah, kind of like riffing on that experience. So yeah, I think another thing that's pretty important to us or for us is remaining pretty current or aware of what's going on around us in terms of culture. I think it's beautiful, and this is like nothing new, but artists not only like inform culture, but we also respond to culture. So our relationship to community is ongoing, and sometimes I think back to like even like as people were honoring Greenwood around the centennial events last year, there were so many artists that were pouring into that work. Or if there's ever any sort of like global catastrophe, artists typically respond in ways that help the larger community process like what's going on, what are we feeling like as a community. So yeah.
Wonderful. And so you're talking about working with different communities, and when we had talked in preparation for this, you said something, and it was along the lines of highlighting communities with painful or erased histories.
Yeah.
And that's really important. It can also be a little overwhelming when you start digging into all the history, because there's so many
Absolutely.
people, so many perspectives and voices and stories to be told.
Yeah.
And you want to tell them all, but obviously we don't have all the time in the world and energy always to do that.
Yeah.
How do you help direct and focus so that you're able to tell the story,
Yeah.
especially when you have so many inputs or sources?
Yeah. Well, first, I think that the three of us are just natural researchers, which is important. We don't want to speak to anything before knowing that our sources, credible, and that we are sure of the stories that we're telling. We are, yeah, we're also just natural listeners. But I think it's really important that we lean on knowledge keepers. I think that's really important, that we lean on elders and their understanding of, there's nothing new under the sun. So the things that we're speaking to are like, like with MMIW, this is a crisis that, you know, began upon Western contact. So there have been centuries of, you know, relatives trying to understand, trying to grapple with like what is left. And yeah, I think that it's very important to us to understand like the broad scope of, you know, what we're hoping to teach, or the story that we're trying to tell, but then also to not be the only ones that are speaking. I think that's dangerous. I think that's one thing that is very I think, yeah, very disappointing to me when influencers, or, you know, people that take it upon themselves to tell other people's stories don't, they don't like allow space, or they don't platform the people that are experiencing the pain. So like last year we had, for, you know, around all of the Greenwood research and educating, we heavily relied on the work of Eddie Faye Gates, and heavily relied on people that were there in Tulsa. We're not from Tulsa, but knew that the stories that were coming from Tulsa and out of Tulsa needed to be told. The same is true with what's happening here with the MMIW preparation. The work of the events happening at First Americans Museum is in collaboration with MMIW and MMIP chapters. These are mainly women and femme who are on the ground actively searching for missing persons. And yeah, the truth is their stories are visceral, and I think that it's dangerous to it like, I think it toes the line of like appropriation when we tell other people's stories without like platforming them, like giving them space. So yeah,
Okay. And it's one of those, they're a vital viewpoint, right? They're the source for the story you're telling.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I work in journalism, and you always go to the most direct primary source first. And then you add others, and you add other viewpoints when necessary and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great to hear. And I'm so glad through all this. I mean, you run the shop with your sisters, so obviously you have a built-in support system, right?
Yeah.
You have the family there who are there to support you, say it's okay, do this, but then also, you know, you get called out on things that other people may not want to sometimes.
Yeah.
But outside of the support system between you three as sisters, what role has a support system played for you outside of your family? So have other businesses, how important is it to have other support systems?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mentioned earlier that we don't want to create in a silo. Yeah, we don't want to live in a silo either. I think it's important to to live in reciprocity with other folk outside of our family. So I have friends that are like, I have like in my sphere of influence, there are like the, you know, 2 or 3 people that it's like that we text every day, or we're calling, or, you know, the best friends, I guess you could call them. And
Share
then
your victories and go through the hard times together.
yeah, the hard stuff. They're the ones that like one of my friends, her name is Britta Newton Taryn. We're in similar lines of work. She is like a commercial stylist. She does a lot of like art directing and creative directing on like for like big brands. So for their campaigns, she will go in and like if you see like a Frito-Lay photo, is probably Britta that had her hand in it, or Zales, or I don't know. Yeah, she's all over the place. So not only can we like connect on like on art, but also I feel like she gets me. And she's one that like I can call if like we had an elder that passed last week. And that was really tough. And I was sort of like anxious, and I know I can call Britta, like, or not call, but text her at like 2 a.m, or she has twin sons and they're toddlers. And if, you know, something goes down there, she knows that she can call me. I think support systems are really important. Another thing that I've found though, over the past couple of years to be incredibly vital for me as an artist and as just a woman. I was raised in majority white spaces. I was raised in the evangelical church, and while I have like divested away from those, you know, that community, I'm not lacking for community at this point. I've sought out Black and Indigenous and Latino friends who are relatives, and I'm learning so much from like as I reconnect, I'm learning so much. And it's important to be able to be around people that experience the same like types of joys or the same types of oppression. I didn't realize how much I needed that until I sought it out, you know. And yeah.
Well, and found community oftentimes develops into a found extended family, right? It's always surplus. It's always good to add more of the positive energy and just the connection. And so I'm curious, for those who are on the call or may check out later, hear about you, what is the best way we can support you, be it as an artist, individually, a storyteller, or a business owner? Like, what's the best way for us to support you?
That's such a kind question. Well, I think most immediately the work that we're doing this spring toward highlighting missing and murdered Indigenous women and their stories, it's pretty important, especially considering where we are, Oklahoma being in a lot of ways like a kind of like a hub for like activity that is that pushes against like tribal sovereignty and that dehumanizes or devalues Indigenous women like us. So as we are, you know, continuing to share about MMIW, it's always helpful to have other people sharing that work. Right now, we're raising money to go toward flowers and other materials, and then also just things to help like toward hospitality when the florists are here on the ground in Oklahoma City in May. So, and then another way that I think could just be really fun, we would love to have you join us on May 7th at the First Americans Museum. It's free to the public. I think it's free. I'm pretty sure. It's
in Kansas City, right?
It's in Oklahoma City.
Or Oklahoma City. I was thinking of a different one. Oklahoma City. You want to tell where at?
Yeah, Oklahoma City, First Americans Museum. The events are happening from the 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So all of the MMIW and MMIP chapters that are in collaboration on this project will be there. So if you are unfamiliar with this crisis, there will be plenty of information and lots of knowledgeable folks that are working very closely on the ground to help recover or to help find our missing relatives. So yeah, I think it'll be special. We have, fingers crossed, we have invited like jingle dress dancers, and there will be music and even some parts of the installation that are interactive. So we would love to have you. Yes, it's May 7th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at
11
First
a.m.
Americans Museum.
All right. And what we will do is also, when we send out the link with the recording for today, just for anybody who missed it, we'll go ahead and include that event, as well as we'll make sure to put your all's website so that if anybody wants to check out or see some of the programs you mentioned, like Lay of the Land and things, they'll be able to access that. So, but yes,
That's great.
May 7th, 11 to 3, Oklahoma City, First Americans Museum.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, send flowers to MMIW is happening there. And yeah, it'll be great. It'll be super great.
Awesome. And are there any other projects or anything else you want to share that are coming up, or should we just stay tuned?
I think for now, just stay tuned. There are lots of little things that are in the works and that we're excited about. But yeah, for now, the Send Flowers to MMIW is what is like it's just like ever present. So we're working really hard to make that happen.
What's the best way to keep up with that? Is it website, social media? Where's the best place?
That's a good question. So you can read our intentions and also the ways that you can volunteer or donate at thewildmother.com/sendflowers2, TO. And then we're active on social media. So The Wild Mother can be found on Instagram. It's just at The Wild Mother. So we have, like updates. One of our highlights has an FAQ about this project. So you can go there and read, what our intentions are for the installation. And then I think we left the FAQs up from last year. You can scroll through and through our feed, and you can see sketches from our last installation, and also photos. And I think there's like a blog entry on our website where you can read like our epilogue post the installation at Greenwood. So yeah.
So wonderful. And I want to thank you so much for chatting with us. I mean, I've had a wonderful time, and I know Cher wanted to say something. So
I want to make sure that you stay around for just like 3 minutes. I know you're working today, so we will let you get back. I want to just again thank you for the work that you're doing. Sometimes there are no words, and sometimes we luck up on the best stories and the best speakers totally by accident. So Leslie, thank you. And to the rest of the group, please continue to send us recommendations. But other than that, thank you all. Enjoy your weekends. And Lauren, just give Sam and Lauren and I just a couple of minutes. So thank you.
And please make sure you look at your calendar, because we do have more chats. We've been planning some coming up. We've got some fun guest speakers coming up. So encourage everybody to come back. Next month is Jane Breckenridge with Yuchi Butterfly Farm. It's going to be awesome. But yes, definitely come back for those, and please support the Wild Mother. We love the work that you're all doing, and
thank you.
We can't wait to see what comes next. So
Lauren, thank you for answering my emails.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Take care. Have a great month. We'll see you soon.